wanna play the recorder? Sure, I guess. Welcome back to our channel, and I'll be continuing my 12 Years a Slave story, part 2. I'll just put this right back. Okay, so, okay, so after that, after Tibet's whipped Solomon and the fight began, and when they hanged Solomon also, he was standing there for hours, barely able to support his weight, and then finally, probably 4 or 5 hours later, Ford came and cut the rope down, and all. He was sent inside the house for protection, so that he wouldn't get any harm outside and all. And so Ford talked about how probably he would sell Solomon because of for his safety and all, and that Tibet might be up to no good. And so he was sold to a new owner named Edwin Epps. Edwin Epps was a cruel and harsh man. He was very mean to all his slaves and said that whoever disrespected him would get a lot of stripes on their back. They'd get, punished. And so Solomon decided to accept this new fate. And after that day, they decided to work at Edwin Epps' place. All of them were scared of him and they decided to revolt. There were so many days that happened at Epps' plantation. He was not decent like Ford, let's say. Let's describe Epps as a cruel man, of course. He had always whipped his slaves, and finally Solomon would be able to experience lynching after a long time. So there was one day that they had a chance to be picking cotton, and picking cotton was harder than expected. Solomon had a little hard time, but he just did whatever Ford told him to do. I mean, Epps. And so after that, they went to picking cotton, and there was one girl there who was named Patsy. Patsy met Solomon a while ago, I guess, and she was really pretty and all, and so she was also working in the fields too. And little did Solomon know that Patsy was a very, very skilled girl. That she could pick over 500 pounds of cotton a day, or probably more than the usual quota. And so after this, they decided to just continue picking cotton, and later they were inspected by Epps. They were searching and seeing who had picked the most cotton, and well, guess who? It was Patsy. She had the most cotton picked, which was probably 500 plus or something, and Solomon only was able to pick 100, 160 or 50 or 30, something like that, and it was less than the usual quotas they could pick. And so after that, they had to punish the slaves who weren't able to pick enough cotton, and one of them was Solomon. Luckily, Patsy was spared, and she was a favored slave by Epps. She was abused by Epps so many times, also the mistress, who was Miss Epps. So after this, they got all beaten, and none of them, and some of the slaves probably who got spared, were so scared to look back and said not a single thing, because they were very, very scared what would happen to them. They just continued picking the cotton and all. And so Solomon felt very scared because now he knew what Epps' true colors were. So they decided just to keep safe. And one day, he was given a I'll call my sister real quick. There's crabs there. There's actual crabs. Okay, well, let's continue our story while walking. And so, okay, let's just say. And so, Solomon knew Epps pretty well nowadays, and also one day he decided to go to Mrs. Shaw's plantation for a while to go visit her a bit. And so he said to Mrs. Shaw, "Hello there," and Patsy was there too, just for a visit. Mistress Shaw was a slave before, and her owner married her. And so after this, she invited Solomon for a cup of tea, just for a while. They explained what happened in her past life, and she told Solomon that she knew how it felt to be a slave, and that they would get so many, whips on their backs, and she pitied Solomon a bit. And so they talked about what happened, and Solomon explained that he was going to do something for Mistress Epps too. And so then Mistress Shaw said goodbye to Patsy and Solomon. And so after that, well, Patsy went back to her work, and Solomon whispered to her to stay away from Epps because Epps was going to do something very bad to her, or he just knew something was going to come up, which was really bad. And so Epps felt annoyed by Solomon and decided to attack him. But so they were able to run away and escape. Luckily, Solomon wasn't harmed much, and Mistress Epps went in and disturbed the fight. And she said she was very annoyed with her husband for his obsession with Patsy. Okay. And so after that, Solomon decided to, this time, keep himself very shut. And also, one more detail is that he never told anyone that he was a free man, because literally so many times he's been threatened to get killed if he mentioned it, like, a few times. And so, he just continued his life in Epps' plantation. Here's another thing what happened. Also, sorry, they had to cut sugarcane, because there was once a day that sorry. There was once a day that Epps' crops were destroyed by cottonworms, and that they had no work to do today. So they went to probably a local judge and asked what they could make use of them, what they could have use of slaves. And so Epps got paid, and Northup was invited to, I guess, cut sugar cane. It was a pretty simple job for Solomon. All you have to do is just shing, shing, like that. And he was pretty well on that job. And there were so many days that happened, like when Solomon went to the judge, and the judge said that they were going to host a party, and he would play the fiddle there too. Oh, thank you. Well, after that, he was also invited to a party to play the fiddle, and he could keep any wages, literally any wages he could get. So they played the fiddle. After that, he played the fiddle at the party. It was pretty simple because he knew how to do it already, and that he felt, very experienced on it. And this place was good. And so after that, he got his money and he kept it with him and saved it as much as he could because he decided that maybe he could buy something with it. He could make a letter or what happened here. Whoop. Sorry. Oh, so after that, he kept his wages with him and kept it somewhere hidden. He continued his work at plantation, of course, and Epps beat his slaves brutally. Oh, let's not talk about only Solomon. Let's also talk about Patsy. Patsy also was one of the friends by Solomon, and also here's one thing that happened. Every night, Epps would always wake up his slaves to dance in his house, and Patsy was always the one who got the attention. And also Solomon had to play the fiddle there too. And so Epps' wife would always mock her or do something bad to her. Once she put a scar on her face, and that was a miserable scratch. Oh no. And so they decided to keep away from Mistress Epps and Epps, of course. Patsy couldn't take it any longer and begged Solomon to kill her because she couldn't stand what is literally happening in her life now as a slave. Because she has experienced so much over the years, and that, fun fact, did you know that Solomon stayed in Ford's plantation for 2 years, and 10 years in Epps? That's a lot, more than my age. And so after that, Solomon refused to kill Patsy because they were very, very nice to her, and that they felt worried about Patsy. And Solomon, I guess, said that they had still some hope to escape or something, or to get freedom. Solomon was not the only one who dreamed of freedom, but Patsy too. She probably got separated from her family, I guess. Water. More water. Where do you get this water? Okay, thank you, I guess. Well, after that, Solomon, felt bad of Patsy, but he planned to escape. No matter how many times he tried to attempt to escape, he would usually fail or just not do it for some reason. That's what happened in the boat too with Robert and the other slaves too. They wouldn't attempt to do it because they were scared. Also Solomon, because if you would escape as a slave, that place is so pretty. I want to watch the water. Okay, cool. I want to go fishing. Okay, so good. And so after that, this is a very beautiful place. Okay. And so after that, Solomon attempted to escape again, but he also failed at that as well. Oh, and he had another idea instead of escape, to write a letter. But let's find out later. And so he continued his day. One day there was another day of picking cotton. That time, it's pretty common for slaves to pick cotton that time because it was really well needed, and slavery existed that time, so they forced their slaves to pick cotton as well. And so after that, he was another day of picking cotton. But this time there was a new change. No, not new cotton plant or anything, but they were joined by a new worker who wasn't like them. It was Armsby, who was a white-skinned man and not like the other slaves. They were pretty interested or wondering what was, happening and all. But, here's the reason. Armsby, is kind of poor, and he needed to level up himself by earning from Epps. Epps was going to pay Armsby if he was also going to help with the cotton picking, and he would get back to his own strength and was going to have his own slaves or something like that. Well, Armsby was looking decent, but he wasn't. Let's find out what happened. Solomon got beaten again, obviously, because of picking not much cotton and all. But Armsby treated to his wounds, and so he could get to know Armsby a little bit better. And he asked Armsby to deliver a letter to Saratoga Springs, New York, in the north. Armsby agreed, and what? Not just that. Solomon also gave all the wages he earned from the party just for him to be convinced to do it. And after that, Solomon had a lot of hope now because he had finally someone to deliver while he could stay in Epps' plantation. Well, after that, Armsby pretty well betrayed Solomon. Well, let's see what happened. Epps woke up Solomon and put a knife to his stomach. The worst part, that he was drunk and he couldn't think well. And so it's like a risky situation to be in because someone's drunk and they feel like they know what happened and they are so mad. And so Epps asked a lot of questions while holding a knife to his stomach, and Solomon luckily had an idea. He lied and said that Armsby was lying, and he was just doing that so he could get punished and all. And so luckily, Epps was able to spare Solomon, and Solomon burned the letter because he was very, very sad. He felt like there's no hope now, it's all lost. So after that, Solomon, I guess, gave up for a while, but he said that there was still some hope. So he just kept on continuing his time to that he was going to build a gazebo, probably. Like a gazebo. Yeah, it was like a mini house. But luckily, he had some help. The help of Bass. Bass was from Canada. He was a very nice man because he did not support slavery and, like, I guess, kind of convinced Epps